I was 57 years old and had an ostensibly ideal life. My name is Angela Carter, a woman with voluptuous curves, transcends time. Had not stolen, yet my age was evident in the argent strands of my lengthy ebony hair, and the little creases on my visage. My dermis was a warm caramel, a legacy of my heritage. My hazel eyes retained a glimmer of youth even if life had diminished it. I was not the same impassioned youth. Bride who wed Paul Carter. 30 years passed, yet I remained vibrant. Paul was charming, exhibiting grace and pride. At 60, he still maintained his appearance that had captivated me decades ago, towering, broad-shouldered with that ever-so self-assured grin, the type of somebody who might enter a room and immediately, we have endured life's challenges, the integration of children, careers, and family, disputes among our 3 adult children, vacated, rendering our spacious residence tranquil. However, the familiar comforts had transformed. However, I maintained that love persisted regardless. The routine had blunted its sharpness. Yet, recently, I observed that love was absent. Shine as luminously as it previously did. Covert embraces in the kitchen had transformed. The warmth of his touch had transformed. Mechanical and somewhat detached, I endeavored to refrain from. Reflect about it, persuading myself it was. Age is merely catching up to us. Paul is 2 years older. Liam and Nathan, the younger siblings, possessed, recently commenced residence with us. Liam, age 35, was the more subdued individual for the time being, possessing dark, brooding eyes and a soft-spoken demeanor, manner that inspired faith in others, exhibited a subtle fortitude, an enigmatic demeanor that elicited his smile. Nathan, 32, appeared rare yet valuable, antithetical, perpetually jesting, incessantly mirthful, featuring his youthful blonde hair, and he possessed mischievous green eyes, resembling a ray of sunlight imparting energy to the room in which they were residing with us for several months during the execution of a project in town, and they had brought a specific reinvigorate the house with vitality that I covertly relished. It was invigorating to possess their youthful vitality in their presence. Elicited laughter from me in a manner I had not previously experienced. Over the years, although I would not acknowledge it, I had a slight flutter when I spoke aloud. Observed them covertly expressing gratitude. They both glanced in my direction. Distinct from Paul, significantly younger, significantly more vivid, they evoked memories of a version I believed I had lost. About myself that I was uncertain remained. Existed, albeit beneath the ostensibly. A flawless surface concealed an impending storm that would obliterate all my previous beliefs. I became aware of my existence on the day it all transpired. The unraveling commenced like any other day. I awoke. Paul rose early as customary to cook breakfast, was in the kitchen consuming his coffee, perusing the newspaper alongside Liam, and Nathan shuffled in, still drowsy, smiled at me and presented his customary, light-hearted praise of my culinary skills. Liam expressed his gratitude in a whisper as he took a seat. I had news to share for breakfast that morning. Paul the first stated that my office has requested me to represent them at an external conference. It is simply a 2-day trip, but I will require to depart this afternoon. Paul gazed above. Surprised, I inquired about the location of the meeting. I responded in Riverside. Nothing significant, however they anticipated my involvement. He nodded and smiled in agreement. He leaned to knock them out with affection for the course. He kissed my cheek with a tender kiss that seemed more customary than sincere. I turned to Liam and Nathan, expressing my hope for each of you will not pose any difficulties for Paul during. Nathan departed, laughing, with no assurances from Liam. Grinned subtly, however his gaze remained fixed on me for an extended duration, as though he desired to articulate a statement but reconsidered. By 2 p.m., I was prepared and ready. Paul escorted me to the vehicle and provided a brief. I bid farewell with a kiss and waved as I departed. I was enthusiastic about the airport, excursion and the respite from the tedium of. A portion of me anticipated returning home, experiencing a novel place and encountering fresh individuals. Individuals and breaking from the usual had established throughout the years, but destiny. I had alternative arrangements while I stood at the airport. My suitcase beside me evokes an unusual sensation, blend of expectation and apprehension. The terminal was crowded with travelers. The murmur of dialogue and movement. Suitcases filled the air as I checked my phone, contemplating the duration. I must wait to board. Then my phone. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was my boss. My heart plummeted upon seeing his name on the conference has been cancelled. He stated, without preamble, some logistical details. Apologies for the complications with the venue. Angela, I acknowledge that this was a last-minute request. Elicited a courteous reply before terminating the call. A constrained smile that swiftly dissipated in my thoughts. Elevated what now? I did not like to return. I had returned home shortly after departing. I have been anticipating a shift. Respite, yet there was nothing else to. I unwillingly caught a taxi back to. The house ride is excessively overwhelming for me. I spent considerable time contemplating Paul's. The absence of a parting kiss in my thoughts. The fervor evident in his gaze. I had already been overlooked. Was he merely imagining things, or had he been emotionally distant? For an extended duration that I was reluctant to acknowledge by the time I arrived home, the inquiries in the mind have proliferated, resulting in an unsettling. A sensation had established itself in my chest as a cab arrived at the driveway, which I observed. The vehicle belonging to Liam and Nathan was absent. It was not uncommon for them to frequently run errands, or I went out for an evening drink, unlatched the front door and entered. Inside the house was unsettlingly silent. I placed my suitcase down and shut the door. The stillness behind me was not palpable. It felt erroneous, despite being comforting or familiar. Paul's absence seemed peculiar. There was no salutation, no auditory presence of his voice, no luminous disturbance from the television or the recognizable hum of his. I called out to Paul regarding the laptop keys, but the house consumed my speech. No response ensued. I placed my stuff down and shut the door. The sound meticulously emanated from behind me. The sound of the latch engaging, resonating. Artificially in the void I communicated. He was likely napping. Cultivated such habit following his retirement, seen as a luxury he would acquired after years of diligent effort. I smiled grimly at the thought while asleep. I contemplated as I ascended the stairs were merely an alternative means of evasion, confronting reality akin to the individual themselves. I ascended gradually, each step emitting a squeak. Subtly beneath my weight, my lips arched. Into a subtle, teasing smile. I intend to ridicule him for his indolence. Stealthily departing for another afternoon slumber, he resented my confrontation over the matter, perpetually complaining about a man requiring his. I thought his displeasure charming. A method, albeit it frequently concealed a more profound tension existed between us, and as I approached the summit of the staircase that provokes, the thought dissipated, causing my heart to cease. Upon hearing it, the sound was quite quiet. It rendered me immobile. The whisper was subdued, yet it emerged. From our bedroom, my gut contorted. It was a close knot, an intimate whisper, excessively delicate for self-address. My pulse quickened, and my palms became clammy. As my imagination traversed various possibilities, I desired to think I was exaggerating, that I was delusional, yet my feet moved autonomously while bearing me. I advanced toward the door that was somewhat ajar, sufficient to permit a sliver of light permeates the gloomy corridor. My heart raced in my chest as I exerted force, partially open to observe the interior, and thereafter I saw them, The scene struck me profoundly. Physical impact that somewhat affects you. Paul was doubled over, gasping for oxygen. He was alone with Jasmine, our neighbor, 22-year-old daughter, the same individual who previously sold lemonade at the intersection when I observed the girl when she was little. She matured while being in the company of my husband. On my marital bed, my legs were in jeopardy to yield beneath me as I grasped the door frame for support. My hands trembled. However, I remained immobile and snared within the nightmare manifesting before. Paul first failed to notice me, very absorbed in her, his hands traversing her exposed back. His lips grazed her neck as he spoke. I was unable to hear his voice clearly due to its low volume, and intimate in a manner that was previously. The bow rose resides in my throat, consumed by the acrimony of treachery. What is the duration of this occurrence and the quantity involved? Countless times I have kissed him, embraced him, and placed my trust in him while things transpired in the background. My mind raced with a multitude of thoughts, unresolved inquiries, each increasingly profound, more damaging than before. Jasmine observed me, her eyes widening in surprise, terror etched on her features as she recoiled. Paul departed, leaving Angela gasping in astonishment. Quaking, Paul pivoted at the sound of my designate, his expression transitioning from. Angela sputtered in confusion and panic, his voice laden with desperation. This is not dash. I did not await his completion. My feet shifted. Before my mind could comprehend, carry me, exiting the room and descending the stairs, view obscured by tears and rage. Angela, wait, Paul called after me, resounding footfall thundering on the floor as he pursued me till I arrived in the living room, my chest pounding, my breath labored as I attempted to comprehend what I had just witnessed. My hands trembled as I gripped them into, clenching fists to suppress the want to shout Paul. His pale features caught up to me, image depicting guilt and shame, titled Angela. His statements were devoid of significance. His voice imploring, he extended his hand towards me, yet I retreat, lifting my hand to halt him. Do not contact me. I am expressing my voice. Quaking with rage, it was an error, he persisted, his words cascading forth in a moment of vulnerability. It is you Angela, I implore you to simply listen to me. An error that reverberated in my thoughts. He referred to it as a bitter echo of a mistake. Was it erroneous each time he absconded? Was it a mistake for him to be with her? Deceived me directly, embrace me, assist me, fully aware of his actions behind the burden of his betrayal was. My knees felt weak, yet I was suffocating. Declined to succumb in his presence. I silently turned and departed. My view became obscured as I isolated myself. The guest bedroom is located adjacent to the second door. Click. Shut. The broken tears flowed, trickled down my face, scorching and acrid as I sank into the bed and grasped the cushion on my chest, stifling the sobs that devastated my body. Images of Paul and Jasmine appeared in my thoughts, harsh and each one more intolerable than the last. Recently, I wept till my throat was raw. My chest felt vacant and devoid. How could it be? He did this to me after 30 years of marriage, following all we have endured. How could he betray me after everything we shared? Girl enough youthful to be his daughter. Wept until all tears were exhausted. Till I experienced a sense of emptiness and numbness. And in that, a solitary thought took root in the void. An idea that ignited like flames in the abyss. I would not allow him to access my stomach. I will be occupied with this during the next few days. Feigned forgiveness, although within I produced a tempest of rage and humiliation. Every second of pain felt torturous, reminiscent of the betrayal that occurred. Dismantled the existence I believed I possessed. Did not consume significantly, scarcely engaged with the meals. I diligently planned to maintain pace. Sleep was unfamiliar when I appeared. I closed my eyes, envisioning Paul. The melody of Jasmine repeatedly resonated in my thoughts, like a persistent depiction of betrayal. A peek at Paul caused my stomach to twist. Endeavors to behave ordinarily, jest, and make physical contact. Me to feign that our existence had not transpired. Being torn asunder only intensified my fury. All I perceived as I gazed at him was the duplicitous individual who had shattered my trust. Separate, it occurred during one of these interminable, perilous, sleepless nights. An alluring thought infiltrated my head. Why would Paul betray me so effortlessly? Should I maintain my loyalty to him? The question lingered in the atmosphere, saturating the chamber, accompanied by its weight and subsequently another. The notion succeeded one that accelerated my heartbeat. My thoughts and emotions are consumed with ominous energy. Affirmative, revenge. The term revenge alone elicited a thrill. Ignited within me a flame that commenced to blaze. Alleviate the helplessness I had experienced since. Uncovering his treachery ignited the inner flame. I absorbed the anguish, substituting it with something ominous and instinctual if he were able. Betray me without hesitation then. I would devise my own method to influence him. Compensation, although how may it profoundly affect Paul? Sufficient to evoke in him the emotions I experienced and, subsequently, my thoughts wandered to Liam and Nathan. Liam and Nathan had both been. They have been residing in our home for several weeks now. Vibrant vitality permeating the residence with a vitality I had not recognized I had longed for. At ages 32 and 35, they were exuberant and full of vitality. Liveliness and a manner Paul had not experienced in years. Liam was the reticent individual with dark intensity. Eyes that appeared perpetually observant. He possessed a serene demeanor, characterized by tranquility. The charisma that rendered him captivating without. Conversely, his attempting Nathan exuded charm and youthful mischief. Emerald eyes glistening with mirth, and his kindness had a unique ability to elicit laughter from me. It felt nearly alien after years of. Paul's increasing detachment elicited their admiration. I discerned via the expression in their eyes. Remained for a moment excessively prolonged when I entered a room in the manner of their discussions with me held significant gravity. I was filled with respect and intrigue. Although older, I nevertheless maintained a presence, and I felt acknowledged in their presence. I shall exact my revenge. Why not proceed with it? To advance further, why not inflict harm on Paul? Where it would inflict the most profound pain upon him. Addressing the two individuals he would least anticipate the concept to take hold and flourish. Increasingly robust with each passing day, driven by my anguish and the fervent yearning to, I would reclaim control of my life, impart a lesson to Paul that he would never forget. Disregard the days following the discovery of Paul with. Jasmine traversed a cloud I experienced. The actions of existence feigning oblivion. Feigning recovery when internally I was brimming with excitement for my strategy. Each smile accompanies each farewell kiss. Before Paul departed for work, he merely fed the fire within me one evening subsequent to Paul. I remained standing after he departed with his pals, in front of the mirror in my room. Upon serious self-evaluation, I selected a lovely red satin gown from the rear of the closet embraced my curves in their entirety. The neckline appropriately plunging just sufficiently diminished to divert attention without. My hair is streaked with silver, cascaded in unstructured waves across my shoulders. A hint of lipstick accentuated the. I was not the fullness of my lips. An insecure and heartbroken woman I had been. Just days ago I was a queen. Resentful lady poised to recover her. Liam and Nathan were downstairs, reclining on the sofa with a bowl of popcorn. Amidst them as they observed an action. Their laughter resonated across the cinema. The house is warm and carefree, accompanied by sound. The sound of my heels clicking against the hardwood floor muted their sounds as I dropped. Ascending the steps, Each step was taken with intention. Captivating their attention, both turned to gaze at me, their eyes expanding as they assessed my appearance. "Do you approve? What do you observe?" I inquired while standing at the base of the steps. My hands are positioned at rest. Liam coughed confidently on my hips. His face flushed a hue of scarlet as he. Nathan, on the other hand, averted his gaze, smiled, his green eyes gleaming with mischief. "Said Angela," he articulated with his voice. "Your playful demeanor is remarkable. It is all for you." I responded, allowing my lips to curve into a captivating smile. "For both of you." Uncertainty was apparent, yet neither of. They averted their gaze as I approached them. Gradually, my hips undulate with every stride. "Let us investigate an unfamiliar subject." I spoke gently, my voice laden with proposal for a gathering limited to the three of us at Nathan's. His grin diminished. "Are you serious?" he inquired. His tone was simultaneously jesting and incredulous. Liam shifted uneasily, although I observed the glimmer of yearning in his obsidian eyes. "Angela," he commenced with a subdued tone. I silenced him with a finger, pressed to his lips. "Do not consider Liam," I quietly sensed as I seated myself in between, adjacent to them on the couch, enough near to sense. Their warmth caused my heart to rush, yet I maintained composure. My motions are steady, and my smile is beguiling. Nathan's hand grazed mine, initially reluctant, but when I refrained from withdrawing, he became bolder. "You are magnificent," muttered, his voice imbued with. Liam seems conflicted in his appreciation, hands clutching the couch cushion but it may stabilize him, and on this. He reiterated that it is not correct, but his tone lacking conviction. I addressed him. "Does it feel gentle when cupping his face?" "Incorrect," I inquired while inspecting his eyes, "because it does not seem to me that there was a moment of quell the atmosphere laden with tension." They nodded practically in unison, and I grinned, experiencing an unparalleled surge of power. I had already encountered this opportunity to regain control, a modicum of respect following what Richard had painted. The eyes of Liam and Nathan alternated between myself and one another, emotions embodying a blend of astonishment and desire. "You need not restrain yourself." My voice was murmured, low and hoarse. I extended my fingers, tracing the contour of Liam's jawline. "Stubble beneath my touch is perilous," I mumbled, my gaze oscillating between the pair of siblings. However, at times peril can be exhilarating. Nathan approached, his hand grazing, opposed to my prior to laying on my. "Why are you doing this?" he inquired, his voice quivering slightly due to my presence. "I require this as I deem it necessary." Nathan was the first to feel alive again, encircle me with his powerful arms. He drew me near, and his lips met mine. In an intense kiss, his tongue navigated my mouth with a yearning that sent shivers down. Liam paused momentarily, observing us with keen attention before ultimately. His hands were hesitant in joining, initially delicately delineating lines on the posterior of my neck, but he quickly matured. His touch grew bolder and more demanding. I was ensnared by their caresses, kindling a passion within me that I had not experienced years. For the first time in an extended period, I felt desired. I felt venerated by the atmosphere. The room became increasingly suffused with tension, the distinctions between right and wrong fading until they vanished. After what originated as innocent kissing, intensified their tactile exploration with a longing that paralleled my own sensation. This was both overwhelming and exhilarating, profoundly erroneous, unequivocally incorrect, yet at that moment it felt entirely appropriate. Time appeared to suspend, to remain still, devoid of remorse, reassessing solely the heat of the instant and the exhilaration of reclaiming. "Regulate," Liam whispered. "You are remarkable." His breath was warm against my neck. Nathan concurred, his voice tremulous, imbued with such exquisite emotion. Hands examine me with veneration as though I were something valuable, something they had. I long for it without even realizing. Replied reciprocally, directing and encouraging them. I felt as though I was being pulled apart, disassembled and reassembled simultaneously. Their lips traversed every part of me. Nathan's kisses were fervent and insistent, but Liam's were gentler, nearly reverential, as though he were committing everything to memory. The feelings in my mouth were, my body is responding in overwhelming ways. I had not permitted myself to experience emotions for years. It appeared as though they were experiencing an awakening, an aspect long concealed within me, something feral and unrestrained that Nathan shattered. His eyes looking away from the kiss. I have never experienced this feeling before. Admitted, his voice quivering with. I caressed his cheek with my thumb. I have not experienced brushing against the skin either. I acknowledged my own voice imbued with. Liam seized my wrist, pulling me into his embrace thereafter. He stated, "Let us demonstrate." Imbued with potential, and they fulfilled their kisses intensified and grew more ardent, as though they were attempting to dump every ounce of their yearning into me. The chamber was charged with electricity. Tension permeates the air, laden with unexpressed sentiments. I stood amidst yearning and lingering touches. Prior to Liam and Nathan, my heart raced. In my breast, as their eyes, one hazel, one brown, fixated on my gaze, the external world appeared to dissipate, leaving solely the three of us at this moment. Ultimately separated, we remained in silence. The gravity of the recent events. Nathan disrupted the silence with a anxious chuckle as rubbing the back of his. He remarked lightly, "Neck well." Liam gazed at me unexpectedly, eyes shrouded in a blend of remorse. He kindly inquired, "What is it that you long for, Angela?" Does this imply that I responded to my voice steady that events are imminent? Alteration for which they did not seek clarification, and I did not extend any offers, yet at that moment I understood that there was no possibility of retreat. Commenced as a solitary spontaneous action, rapidly evolved into a clandestine relationship between Liam and Nathan appeared unable to resist my allure, and I was insatiable regarding their creation. Make me feel desired, powerful, and alive. Exercised caution to ensure Paul stayed. Unaware when he departed for work in the mornings, I would fabricate justifications to prolong my stay. In the family room with his siblings. Lingering strokes, our eyes flooded with implicit commitments made at night when Paul was present. While asleep, I would quietly exit the bed and seek one or occasionally both awaiting. It was in the guest room awaiting me. Hazardous and imprudent, yet I remained indifferent. The first occasion in years I was not a woman concealed in the shadows, unnoticed. Being undervalued, I was the focal point of the focus of their desire, and I took great pleasure in it.